Alright, let's just get into this. Control F5. Hi, Shanghai Rush Evolution. Hello to everyone watching this video. My name is Jace. I am a micro coach and a colour caster. At this discussion today, after spectating one of the teams I used to coach, Boost Academy, and I'm getting into it with a thought experiment. So hear me out, and let's get into it anyway. Please excuse the lisp. I have this really bad speech thing in real life. I have a lisp anyway, but I have a cut on the side of my tongue, and it's kind of swollen my whole mouth, so I'm a fucking mess right now. So, why did this come up now? Well, Moira has been nerfed, Echo's been nerfed, and hitstand nerfs have been sort of toned down in general. The patch fall off isn't that big. I think it affects only 2 or 3 points of the game, but hitstands have been nerfed in a lot of people's minds, which means that people probably opt to play away from double hitstand in general, and that is good for us. Favourable comp for us, that is TSBA. They've done a lot of practice on this comp. This Winston comp, I think it's used them very well, which is good. It is a very fixated comp. There is no wiggle room for chop and change. There is basically 7 heroes you can play in this comp. They are Sombra, Echo, Reaper, Winston, D.Va, Lucio, Moira, pretty much. This comp also has very set win conditions, which means that you can play it by the book. It's very good to teach, it's very good for learning. It's an S-tier comp with no Reinhardt or Sombra in the game. These were the Overwatch League bans at the June tournament that we saw this comp really flourish and perform to its maximum. It is a comp that is really good for fundamentally improving. This 6 core is great for engage timings and execution. So let's look at the meaningful changes. These were made about a month ago. Echo, ultimate cost increased by 15%. Reaper, lifesteal increased from 30 to 35%. That is a buff for Reaper that makes it brawl longer. That's really good. But these big changes here, these Echo nerfs and these Moira nerfs. Both of them, more importantly, keep your hands, keep your heads in mind for these ultimate costs, right? Ultimate cost increased, that is not good for this comp and how this comp is played at the moment. This Biotic Grasp, yes, is a buff, but we don't really give a shit about that. That means nothing. So, what do it mean? Moira ult up, generally slower, especially at lower levels. That is bad. Duplicate up, a bit slower. Probably still faster than the MP Cole, but still. Any ults being up slower in this comp is a massive thing. Reaper lifesteal, though, means he can brawl for longer. And this is good because it gives us a lot more strength as a comp in these neutral fights, in these fights where we can't rely on these ults. One of the primary strengths of this comp, though, has been knocked down massively. Coalescence in that neutral fight, in that first fight. In my mind, this comp needs the Coalescence to snowball. It needs it because of what happens in the later fights. Let's go for the June tournament example, and just look at the ult charge in between. So what happens here is Dallas win the neutral fight. They win the neutral fight with Fielder on 78%. It gets kind of scrappy. People trade back and forth, but ultimately ends up winning Dallas' first fight. Is Fielder getting Coalescence and just coalescing Shanghai Dragons off the point? Here we go. You look right now, it's 80 to 53. Shanghai have a very strong reach and test here. They have, this is going to be ball that drops out the air, so this is basically everyone. But unfortunately, 53% to 82%. Fielder's going to press Q and run them off the point. Look, here we go. Oh, they just can't do shit, man. Look, they're so pressured. And here we go. Here's the Coalescence. That's Wraith Force. Fate dies. Lee J gone, showing away. Fucking Fleta has to fuck off. Like, they can't do anything, man. And that's the fight gone already. Like, that is their fight done. So I'm going to go to a concept I call Q Poker or Ult Snowball in Overwatch. Here's a tier list of basically the tempo at which most ults come up. And there are some at the bottom that really don't apply and you'd be thrown out whenever. Bob, you kind of just throw out whenever. Pulse Bomb, Remech, Mines, Doomfist ult. You either need these ults specifically, they're rather suicide to use, or you don't really game plan around these ultimates. They're very on a whim ultimates. But as you can see, the ults that are up off cooldown, Simwall, which is very good in double shield brawl, Coalescence, which is obviously the core for this comp, and a nano boost, that's double shield, sorry, double bubble, and double shield is that window ultimate. We see the ults up early and second. Brig Rally, Tyre, Death Blossom not as high value but still really good for cleanup, particularly in this comp. Junkrat ult, good in the brawl and the spam comps, particularly think Lijiang Control Center. Brig Rally, really good as a cleanup ult in double shield or as a good engage in any brawl comp that plays it. Most of the time you play Lucio instead though. Dragon Strike, again, double shield, really good. EMP, Good against double shield and good in this comp and in any dive comp as well. And then these ultimates. Blizzard, really good because most of the time a lot of things that can be going before Blizzard are already off the field. All of these ults should be up and have gone before Blizzard already. So I'm actually going to turn the music off. Just to help me focus a bit. But Blizzard and Bongo and Blade and all of these, particularly these three, are all really good because most of the time these won't be up. The more important ults won't be up to be able to counter and overinvest and outinvest. But these ults should already be kind of offline or coming up or basically out the way. That allows these ults, particularly these two, Bongo and this Blizzard, to get up first, and that's really valuable for the team that has them. Because they're massively fight-winning ults. They can't get under-ulted, so that means they can't get out-tempoed, and they can't get out-valued by something like a Beat, Graviton Surge, Transcendence, etc. These are reactionary ults I've put in because they come up so late that you have to react, or Graviton is a tempo ult, but it comes up basically slower than everything else. That's why that is there. So, this is your sort of usual fight plan for this composition, right? Fight 1, Coalescence. Fight 2, you should have EMP and Blossom. Most of the time you have Blossom, you might get EMP late, but you should get EMP normally in Fight 2. And also this is using the comp that Shanghai, that Dallas are playing on, which is Fight 3, your tank ult and you get a late beat, which transitions into Fight 4, early Coalescence. Fight 5, just a clean EMP. Most of the time, Fight 5 is basically just EMP by itself. And Fight 4 and Fight 3 are when the enemy really have ults. So this is when your ults kind of scale off. They massively drop off. They sort of anti-scale. The comp is very it gets outscaled really hard. Concept that I'm sort of bringing in from League, the idea that sort of strength over time. The more this game goes on, the more fights go on, the weaker this comp gets. Okay, so this is why like having Beat is good because it allows you to counter engage against something like Rav Dragon, against any EMP that the enemy have, something like that. You sort of leverage time for resources we'll see in later slides. The way it generally cycles, going to EMP in Fight 5, most of the time should be enough to cap the map most of the time. 6 tank ults, if you get Fight 7 you get beaten, so on, but it's really these first 3 that are like very, very important. You win this one, by proxy you win this one. Fight 3 you stall this one out as long as possible to build up your other ults, and then Fight 4 you look to go with early call or EMP to win it. So it really is a case about sort of playing the Spire at the first corridor, you know, like you take down the head of the dragon like early. With the downtime of Cole being higher, if we cannot reliably get that first Q out, and by first Q I mean in the entire lobby, it really halts our steam train from pulling out of the station at Mark 10, which kind of gigafucks us in the long run if you think about it. May not be able to give them a free fight because we want to charge Cole, especially on control maps. If we lose some of these fights, these first 2 early ults, Cole and EMP or copy, allow us to establish so much control. They allow us to establish map control, ult advantage, positioning, potential to get picks as well, which are really, really good in our comp because our ult 6v6 are always worse. And most importantly, they drain the enemy of time. The enemy need these ultimates to beat us, but they leverage these ultimates for time. As I said, time is good because their ult will always beat ours 6v6, and we've seen that. We saw that in the scrim today. And if you play this comp, you'll realise once they have ults, you kind of just lose the fight because theirs are better. You don't have EMP, that is. If you have EMP, you don't care what their ults have because you completely turn their ultimates off. But if they have ultimates, you kind of just fucking lose the fight. We get as much tempo as we can, and we leverage that into other things. And eventually it gets to the point where we sustain long enough that we build up our own ultimates, and this is why EMP I think is so crucial in this comp. Because when they have ults, eventually they're going to get on the steam train and they're going to be able to use one or 2 ults here. When we get our own EMP, as I said, if we go back to the thing, right? Whole first fight, EMP Blossom, tank ultimates. This is the fight that the enemy should win Fight 3 because they've got passive ult charge and they've got neutral and losing fight ultimate charge. So Fight 4, if we can go with Cole because we think our ult advantage is good, If not, we can probably just wait and go with fight 4. We can actually EMP on fight 4, and this is when we kind of get to swing back. And this is where it's kind of unfair because we're winning these 2 fights, we're losing this one, but we're losing this one so slowly that we get to come back on fight 4 with EMP or Coalescence. And what should we do about this? And honestly, just final thoughts in general. So this comp potentially has to evolve if we can't think about these ultimates because they're so crucial to it. Reaper is still 100% in the game, and Reaper is good because it allows us to fight longer. And when we fight longer, if we extend the fight, that means that we get our ultimates up at basically the same time to no cost, especially in that neutral fight and control. I think Echo might also be a mainstay now if your flex DPS is good at her, especially. Moira, Coalescence being up early was kind of the big thing about Moira. Yes, you had like a shit ton of healing from the left click from the piss cloud, but like the longer the fight goes on, like the fight will go on longer now because of Coalescence coming up later, and Coalescence was the ender, it was the closer, but it's up less now because his ultimate charge is slower, which isn't good. So it's a bit counterintuitive. Window, Bapt in this comp kind of did you useless. If your team can make Bapt work with this comp, holy shit, go for it, but Nano is definitely just better. Nano is great for bunning ults. I would advise against Nanoing Sombra or Echo to get their ultimates up whilst they are more important. It's very, very greedy. But Nanoing Winston can be good at sort of stabilizing the ship and helping you build up EMP and Echo from that because your Nanoed Winston or your Nano D4 will give you so much space, so much pressure that your DPS can then get to that ultimate charge that Coalescence is essentially giving them anyway. If this comp cannot play for Q Poker as much, then I feel like Sombra should go Echo and it should just sort of evolve into a broad comp. But then again, Sombra I think is very, very important. However, I think if you're playing for Q Poker, you need Sombra. But if you're not playing for ultimates, if you're not playing to just go with these finicky engages with Q buttons, then you sort of just evolve it into a rush comp. And when you play Reaper Echo, your comp is way better in neutral fights than any Sombra comp is. And when you play Reaper Echo, I also think you go over to Ana. So, because again, like if you're not going to go Sombra, I don't think you go Moira because they have just such innate synergy, being able to snowball 1 into 2. It really is a 1-2 punch. Your first punch is that Coalescence coming up, and then your second sort of haymaker to sit them down for another fight is that EMP. I mean, that EMP could really fuck them up because if they commit ults into the EMP potential, you know, like it's about some comps, some modes that can be one off 2 fights, some maps can be one off 2 fights, then potential any time that the enemy ult and we win with EMP, it's just it fucks them so hard. So that's something to really be aware of. And then your style has to shift if you can't play for Q Poker. You go from a front to back aggro comp that plays to win with its raw pushing power. It plays with its raw sustain and its raw pressure. You run at them with Reaper, and then you run at them with Reaper, you burst them. Reaper kind of can't finish off targets because of only 8 shotguns, and you kind of just bulldoze them over. But comp really doesn't have a lot of cleanup outside of ultimates. Your ultimates really are there to help clean up, especially with Coalescence, but you have Echo Execute, and Echo Execute is really good at helping clean up, especially against the raw sustain that's in the game right now. So you shift from cleaning up with ultimates to cleaning up with Echo Execute instead. That's something to think about. Poker really valuable, but if you can't, then you have to play front to back, and then that's where absolutely Echo can come in and shine for your team. Please to like and subscribe. Going to be it for me. Hopefully this was interesting. Quick 15-minute video. Interested to see what you guys think about the thoughts on the slideshow. Take care. I'll see you all in a bit. Peace.